Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mistakes Were Made. This channel was created to document our progress with debt reduction, credit card debt, personal loans, auto loans, and of course, the mortgage, with a goal of eventually eliminating it completely. So, today, as you can see, we have some lovely plastic envelopes, which are our cash envelopes, our new cash envelopes. We had a little bit of an issue with our old envelopes, which were paper and which are perfectly serviceable, work great. This is not a knock on, these more generic and utilitarian envelopes. Sadly, we had some issues initially, which made me think, oh my gosh, we need to get something a little bit more durable. And then after we'd made the decision to purchase these ones, we had a spill event that totally decimated three of them. So that was kind of a sign that yes, we needed to find something else. Now, I know in one of our previous videos I had mentioned that it didn't make sense for us to spend money on, the fancy envelopes and binders and stickers and all of that stuff. And it still doesn't, but that's not a commentary necessarily on other people and what they prioritize for their budgeting. I am not here to yuck somebody's yum. Folks would say, hey, you are in this position, you shouldn't spend money on entertainment. So, I am not here to cast stones. We are just not in a position where we'd feel comfortable outlaying money on some of those more aesthetically nice items. Eventually, I would like to be in a position where we can have some things that are a little bit prettier, but obviously, whether it's something just kind of boring like this, or it's a boring envelope, it's perfectly fine and it works great. We just ended up with an issue with these. So we moved on to these. And this actually was not the first thing that we were going to do. I had actually seen a couple of videos where people did a tutorial on how to make the vinyl envelopes yourself with a laminator and all of that, and that seemed really interesting and super doable. Plus, a lot of customization you can do yourself, and I was all for it. And then they mentioned, by the way, the initial outlay may be around $150. So then that kind of put a brake on things, but I still decided to go onto Amazon and try to source all of the different items that were needed. And I think I did well overall, actually, because at the end of the day, once I found all the different things at the cheapest amounts that I could find, it actually ended up coming up to $88. So I was happy to see that reduction, but then at the same time, I was like, oh, that's still too expensive. So then we looked at alternatives and we landed on these. And so these ended up being $16.99, and I got 55 of them, which worked out. Some of the savings for doing your own, besides the ability to be custom made and be able to do whatever you kind of want with them, is that you can make a bunch of them for not a lot of money once you've done the initial outlay. At this point in our process, I can't imagine that we're going to have too many more of these envelopes that we need to make. Now, there could be categories that we are still missing that would be important and smart for us to put together. And if you think of any of them after we go through these today, please put that in the comments. But it still didn't seem like it was the proper use. We aren't in a place where it would make sense for us to be spending money to make our own. So we did that. I bought some labels, which were $7.99. That was a little bit expensive. There's 142 of them. Not all of the categories are ones that we'll ever use. So, it's iffy on whether that was a good money usage. The last item that we did get actually is one of these, because starting next pay period, so for the second half of December, I am going to actually have to go into the bank and get cash, because the denominations that we need for some of the new categories that we've added, and because we've split and combined other categories, it's not going to be serviced by the ATM because the ATM will only do 20s and 50s. So that is not going to work. And so I figured it would be helpful to have something to organize them. And this actually ended up only being $8.44, which I felt was fairly reasonable compared to some of the costs I was seeing out there for other items. So there's that. But we'll just go through these really quickly. So we've got our AAA, and you can tell which ones I made myself because they didn't have options that matched. This was just me taking some packing tape that I use for my shipping for Etsy and writing on it, and then putting a little bit more packing tape on it so that it wouldn't, smear and everything. So we've got AAA. Birthdays. So we had Christmas before, and it was like Christmas gifts, and then we're going to change the Christmas gifts to cars because somebody had mentioned, hey, you don't have anything for car maintenance, and we're like, okay, well, Christmas is going to be done, so let's just change that to cars. And then of course our brains kicked in and we're like, oh wait, well, Christmas is every year, so we're going to need to have an envelope for that. So we decided to separate out Christmas, gifts, and birthdays. So birthdays are going to be for family, and really it's for our nieces and nephews. We don't do birthday gifts for the adults in the family. We don't do Christmas gifts for the adults in the family either. And that means, like, my sisters and brothers, we don't give gifts to each other as a general rule. It's typically if you're 18 years or under, then you get a gift. Or if you've given birth or were part of the process of bringing me or the other adults to life, then you'll get a gift from each of your children. But yeah, that might be a weird process, but that's what works for us. So birthdays is for within the family. Obviously Christmas is Christmas. Car maintenance, self-explanatory. Clothing is a new one. Basically I was like, hey, I'm going to be getting a new job soon. I have not bought new clothes in probably 3 or 4 years because I can just do jeans or pajamas or whatever working from home. I mean, I bought new clothes, but not work clothes. So I've got enough from previously that would be fine for doing interviews and everything. But if I'm going into the office every day, 5 days a week, I definitely don't have enough to rotate without it being a little suspicious, where people are like, wow, she wears the same 5 things Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's like clockwork, which maybe that's not something I should even be worrying about. And as long as they're clean, who cares? But, the things that we worry about. So clothing is new. Dine out and entertainment. So we had an entertainment before, but we decided to separate the activity from the eating. And so this is now going to be if we go bowling, if we go to the movies, if we go hiking and there's like parking fees or something like that, that would get pulled from here. If we do any kind of eating while we're out and about, so if we, go to a restaurant in particular, if we stop off at a fast food place on the way somewhere, food at the movie theater, that stuff would come out of the dine out. This change is not going to change the budget because we had budgeted $50 per month, so we're just going to separate that into 25 and 25. Garden yard is actually another one that got split. So we had house or home before, but we just kind of considered the home as a whole. It doesn't matter, where the repair or the cost was, inside or outside, it was under the home. But now we're going to split that out. So garden yard is going to be for anything outdoors, just like the entertainment. This used to be $50. I mean, it still is essentially $50, but we're breaking it up between the two, so each one will be $25. Gas, self-explanatory. gifts is part of that whole Christmas birthday thing. Gifts is going to essentially be anybody outside the family. So if you have an event at work where you're doing, like a white elephant gift, we would take the money from here. If we're going to somebody's house and it would be customary or polite to bring the host a gift, that would come out of here. So we did not have one for giving before. I do feel that giving is important, and so I wanted to make sure we have one. We haven't decided 100% on how much we're going to fund it and what kind of cadence. My guess is it's going to be more of a when we're able situation, but haven't made a final decision on that. Groceries is self-explanatory. We talked about household. So miscellaneous, we did have an envelope called leftover. So some of the ones that we have are going to be a black hole. So for example, household. This one, we're just going to constantly put money into it. There's not going to be a goal that once we hit it, that's all we're going to fund until we use some of the money, and then we'll refund it again to get back up to that goal. That's not how we're going to treat the household one. But others are going to be like the entertainment fund, where each month it's going to get $25, but if we don't spend the $25 in full, whatever is left is going to get transferred into the leftover bucket, which is now this miscellaneous. And so anything that's going to be in miscellaneous would be available to augment if there is a cost that comes in for one of these categories, but there's not enough money in there. So we could potentially pull from this to try and help fill, whatever we need. The other thing that we might do with that is, after if we're continually building up and we hit a certain amount, then maybe we'll cash it in and apply it to debt. Or potentially this would be where we would initially save money to then go to a savings challenge of some sort once it feels like it's appropriate to do one of those. Mother loans. So I don't know if you can tell, but had to take the mother from Mother's Day and the loans from personal loans to create this label, but this is the cash envelope for the loan that we were paying my mother back for. Pets is self-explanatory. Prime, again, you will not be surprised which one is the one that I made myself. Savings, so this one is actually two that were combined. We had one that was generically called sinking fund and one called unexpected. And honestly, I'm not sure what my thinking was. If maybe it was like, well, we'll have the sinking fund, and if we overrun that for whatever, then we'd have this unexpected bucket that we could pull from. It didn't really make logical sense once we thought about it, so we decided to combine them together. It's not changing the budget because we are also combining the amount that we are going to be funding this one, so it'll be the same dollar amount. It'll just all be in a single envelope. And then almost last but not least, we have vacation. Now this one, I wasn't sure if it made sense for us to make an envelope for it right now. We have on our kind of savings challenge goals or our big goals, a nice vacation. And so I was hemming and hawing on whether it made sense to make an envelope for it yet, because I don't know at what point we would even start to try and fund it. But they had a sticker, so I went ahead. And then last but not least, even though we're not ready to do savings funds or savings challenges, I decided I was going to try and make one for myself. And this is the result of option one that I made. And I filled it out to fund one of our big goals, which is yard cleanup. We have a decent sized backyard, and probably about a fifth of it or so is covered in blackberry bushes, and we have been battling those since we moved in. It has been a nightmare, and we don't seem to be able to make any progress with it. So the idea is we'll save up money and hopefully be able to get a professional in. And hopefully $1,000 is well more than would be needed. But whatever it pays for, whether they eradicate it completely or they make a huge dent and we can then, step on top of that and keep it going, that's the goal for this. And I put in here each leaf or flower part would be equal to $10. So the way that I counted it, there's actually 130 opportunities to fill something in. So technically, this as a whole would get you to $1,300, but I'm thinking $1,000 is enough for that goal. I don't know. I don't know how much stuff like that costs, but it made sense to me. So this is my first attempt at trying to make a savings challenge of my own. I didn't use the best medium for the challenge itself because this is actually a shipping label that I printed off using the Dymo. So not really the most cost-effective way of creating this, but we don't have a printer, or at least not one that works. So this was kind of my only option for my test thing. So yeah, so there's that. And then I also made the second one kind of basically in the same way. And this one is for our air conditioning, which I'm guessing will be $8,000. And so each one of these is $100. And once it's all filled, that'll mean we have 2,000. We've got two, so 4,000. So we'd have to be able to clear it up and then start again. I did have something else written in here before, and to clean it, I tried doing the paper towel with a little bit of alcohol on it, and it eventually came off for the most part, but it may not be visible in the video, but there is still a little residue that you can see. So I don't know if that is the pen that I used or if that's the material of this plastic that is not conducive to trying to create this as a reusable item. So, doing the vinyl thing myself and having like a laminate thing, I could see that being very helpful for creating my own savings challenges, but still it's not enough for me to want to put that money outlay at this point. But I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? I'm not looking for people to praise the beauteousness of my savings challenges or anything else, but if you have suggestions on, is it just that I need a different pen, or is it basically it doesn't matter what pen you use, this really isn't a good type of plastic to try and do reusable stuff on it, getting that feedback would be really helpful. If there's any categories that you think that we have still missed in this that we should keep in mind, love to get that feedback as well. And we will talk a little bit more about the amounts that we're going to be funding into these for the new ones, and if anything else has changed along those lines when we do our next recap. So I guess that's where we will end, and we'll see you in the next one.